Just as far as Justin Smith, kind of what are you looking for out of him in this game, Eric?
Yeah, I just think continue to gain minutes and regain his confidence. And obviously, the first game back from any type of surgery, you kind of expect a little bit of limited minutes and maybe a little rust. I kind of felt like it'd probably take 2 or 3 games, just like it does anybody, for the player to feel fully confident in the injury. He didn't jump center for us the other night. Just didn't feel comfortable doing that, and I think that's a sign that he's probably still not 100%. But certainly he's working hard in practice every day, and maybe the biggest thing is just regaining your timing, and from a conditioning standpoint, because the injury was one that he couldn't use the treadmill. That's going to be the other area that he's going to continue to progress in day by day.
And also just with Jaylen Tate and the turnovers, plus having a point guard like Cooper, just to go against, what do you look at for him?
Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Tate did not have 6 turnovers last game. He had 4, which is still too many. But when a ball goes through a guy's hands, he got attributed to that turnover. But certainly from a point guard position, we've got to have Jaylen Tate take care of the basketball. We've got to have JD Note take care of the basketball, and then Devo, those 3 guys as our point guards. And then the impact that Cooper's had. They could have beat Alabama, and then they've won 2 in a row. He's played 3 games, been absolutely incredible, 22 points a game. To get thrown into league play as a freshman, 10 free throws attempted a game. And, Auburn presents a lot of problems, shooting 29 threes a game. And then you think about the 5 players averaging double digits. So we've got to play, really good defense. And Cooper has got the ball in his hands so much. We talked to our team about it yesterday, that his, the amount of time he's got the ball in his hands and his usage is actually higher than James Harden when Harden played for the Rockets. And so that's, that it's a completely different team than we played a few weeks ago in Auburn.
Thank you.
Bob.
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Yeah, I was wanting to follow up on Cooper. I mean, how different is Auburn with him, and how are they different?
Well, I think one is, he does a great job of throwing advanced passes. He's got 29 assists in 3 games, and he's scoring 22 points a game. Not often you would see a player that scored the ball at such a high clip and has such a high assist numbers. He does a good job of throwing lob passes to Cambridge and to Cartwell. Really, really good in transition. Great, like I said, kick ahead pass player in transition. Really sees the floor. Seems like he doesn't have much trouble figuring out the defensive schemes that teams throw at him. He's a special player for sure, Bob.
And I think you guys forced them at 18 turnovers. Watching the game, it was just real clear they didn't handle the ball real well, or they really lacked a point guard, which obviously they have now. How hard is it going to be to turn them over like you did the first game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, it's now you're dealing with the guy I just kind of mentioned that, the usage rate and how often he has the ball in his hands. And, he's done a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. When you factor in how often he has it in his hands. So, we just got to try to keep him in front of us the best we can, and still have active hands like I thought we did with a lot of their guys last time we played.
He's one of 16 on threes. Does that mean you lay off him a little bit, or do you think that's misleading stat?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to start knocking down threes at a higher rate. Again, he's played 3 games, and I think that's too small a body of work when you consider that he was a good shooter, in his past, and so certainly keeping him out of the lane and not allowing him to dictate who gets shots is a tough task, but it's one that we've got to try to eliminate to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I got a couple more. I'll turn it back to Mike if it comes back around.
Curtis.
Hey, Coach, what's your message been to the guys since Saturday? And then when you think about kind of getting things back on track, where do you feel like it needs to start? Wow.
It's got to start at a lot of different spots. First of all, we didn't do anything Sunday at all. So yesterday is the only day, and then we'll get back down with them today. We got to get better offensively for sure. We've got to get better defensively for sure. You've got to play with a little bit of joy, and you got to play with confidence. So how do we, figure out guys enjoying playing and then also playing with confidence, because we have a few guys that just aren't playing with much confidence. So we've got to try to build that up, and we need a couple shots to fall. And then, like both sides of the ball, you can't let, if you're not defending at a high clip, you can't let that affect your offense, and then vice versa.
Jacob.
Eric, after the LSU game last week, you talked about how you told the guys that just because you played so well in the Georgia game doesn't mean you're going to play well in the LSU game, have to take it one game at a time. How do you kind of flip that message now? Just because the last 2 games haven't gone the way you wanted them to doesn't mean that, that has to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of being a basketball player. I mean, again, we play, 30 games. We don't play 10 games. And so you've got to have the ability to bounce back. You've got to have the ability to put bad games behind you, and you've got to have the ability to put good games behind you. And so, certainly I think that's, you've got to learn from the mistakes. You've got to learn from things that you haven't done well. And so that's what we've got to do.
Hutch.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about after the LSU game, y'all had the really tough practice the next day. How have you approached practice, I guess, yesterday, and how do you think it'll go today? What kind of approach will you take?
Yeah, I think I've been really upfront and honest with everybody about the way that we've dealt with practices and everything. And, we had a good practice yesterday. Our guys worked hard, and that's what I'll leave it at.
Scotty.
Hey, Coach, you said on your radio show last night that I think the guys were, ready to hit the reset button. I'm curious, throughout your career, what have you found to be some of the most effective ways to regroup a team after a tough stretch?
Yeah, I think just having the ability to put a bad game behind you, to have internal belief both in the group and in your individual play. I think that those are 2 things that you can control. So again, just from a confidence standpoint, you've got if you miss a shot, you've got to have the ability to the next shot that you take to have some confidence in that shot, and then defensively. You've got to have confidence in your lateral mobility to maybe take away the 3-point shot, and to have belief that there's a teammate waiting for you on the backside.
And, in terms of a team identity, where do you think you guys are in terms of, developing one or forming one?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a player miss games, your identity is going to change. Again, I'm not using that as an excuse at all, because everybody in the country goes through injuries. And from an identity standpoint, we've lost to three ranked teams. One team ranked in the top 10, and two teams that are playing as good as any two teams in the country. And so we've got to regroup. We've got to understand that there's still a lot of basketball to be played, and our identity when we bring back whatever we brought back, 20% of the scoring, or 18 or 15 or 4, I don't know what the percentage is, but you're going to go through some ebbs and flows in trying to figure out your identity, especially in a COVID year. Again, you look at Alabama, and Herb Jones is a returner, Petty is a returner. Those two guys, kind of their bread and butter, and same thing with LSU having 4 returning players. They pretty much knew what their identity was even prior to the season starting.
Trey Schapp.
Coach, what do you see in Alan Flanagan's game, if maybe something more than what you saw firsthand the first time you played them?
Well, I thought Flanagan was playing great before we played him. I thought he had a really good game against us, and he continues to play really well. I think he's got a little bit different role now. Obviously, the first time we played him, you saw his ability to be a multi-positional player, because he played a little point guard for him. He can play a little power forward for him. He can play off guards, small forward. He can guard 5 positions, which is very unusual in college basketball. He's got good strength. He can shoot the ball. He can dribble drive. He's a high volume free throw attempt player. I think he's a great player in our league.
Trey Biddy.
Hey, Coach. Connor Vanover, he hadn't played much in the last 3, but was playing like 20 minutes, I think, the last 4, and had 17 and 5 against Auburn. Last time, I didn't mean he got 17 and 5 in this one, but you see him maybe playing a bigger role in this game since he did have some success last time against them?
Yeah, first of all, I think, Trey, the game's different. They're playing faster right now. Sharif Cooper's as fast as any point guard that we'll see all year. And as I've mentioned, he throws, in my opinion, as good of advanced passes in transition as anybody that we've seen. And whether it's Connor or anybody on our team, your minutes should be based on your productivity. And we know from an offensive standpoint that we have better numbers with Connor on the floor. So certainly we'd like him to be more involved than he has been. But again, it's going to come down to defensive matchups and then how each guy's playing, and then what units playing well together, which right now we're still searching for.
And you're not going to have 20,000 fans in there, obviously, but I would imagine if you're going to kickstart a turnaround, Bud Walton's a good place to start. You're anxious to get back to home.
Yeah, I think that, just other coaches have said it. The numbers say it. Probably a slight advantage to play at home because you're used to the atmosphere. You're sleeping in your own bed instead of a hotel. Your routine is a little bit more standard, but other than that, it's a different year, and the numbers will tell you that throughout the country.
Randy.
Coach, based upon the LSU game, the 5 that were on the floor that had the greatest influence was Smith, Davis, Moody, Williams, and Tate. And I know you tried a lot of combinations in that game. Is kind of back to what you said before, is that going to determine rotations, the amount of productivity? Because some of the guys that started last game are some of the guys that's struggling the most.
Well, Randy, I would love to know what those numbers were when the game was close, because to have a good plus minus when you're down 30 is shallow. It's not realistic. So everybody the last couple games has gotten a really good opportunity in the first half. Historically, I have not been a coach that rotates 10 guys in. So I'm doing that out of trying to find the right combinations and who has confidence on that given night. So I would tell you that if you're looking at the plus minus in a 30-point game or a 20-point game, you've got to figure out where those numbers lie when the game really was close, so to speak, if it was ever close. So I would say that the plus minus for the year is probably, a good indicator of certain things. I would also say that you don't just take a plus minus sheet and then roll a starting unit out. There's things such as spacing. For instance, we know when Connor Vanover's on the floor for us that we have better offensive spacing because people have to guard him at the 3-point line because he's a threat. JD Notae is a threat for us in the opposing team's eyes from stretching the floor out because he has made threes. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into decision-making other than just grabbing a stat sheet and then trying to come up with, hey, this is who we're going to start, or because some guys play better with other guys. Sometimes the ball moves better with other players. One team could be a team that you got to worry about rebounding. Another team, it could be transition defense. So, look, Connor had a really good game against Auburn, but they're a really fast team, and we got to guard the 3. So how that storyline plays out, we won't know until the game starts on Wednesday.
Bob?
Yeah, Eric, kind of follow up on Connor, but also Desi. I'm guessing when you said a little while ago 2 guys are lacking confidence in particular, I'm guessing you're talking about Desi and Connor. Might be wrong, but that'd be my guess. And the fact they combined for 40 at Auburn, even though, like you said, this is a different Auburn team, is that something that could kind of help jumpstart their confidence, just feeling better going into this game based on what they did the last time you all faced Auburn?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Bob, that it's kind of across the board, the confidence. I don't think it's just one guy, although certainly, we've seen Desi go through streaks. I've been with him now for a year and a half, and that's, was the case last year and is the case this year. And, but I do think every game takes on, its own identity. It's the same thing, if you're coaching in the NBA and you play teams 4 times or 5, like every game's different. This is not my first time playing a team back to back. I have been a part of a lot of these where you're playing a team twice in a season. And when you play somebody more than one time, each game takes on a life of its own. And again, I think this Cooper factor, they're just a completely different team, how they're playing on both ends of the floor. And matchups are going to be different now as well. Cooper's a quicker, smaller player, whereas so now that means they're going to have there's going to be some length issues, and they're a great shot blocking team as well.
And
Final question, Bob.
Okay, you're talking about turnovers earlier. Notae's obviously giving you some really good scoring games, but he's actually -2 got 2 more turnovers and assists. Is he just getting in too big a hurry, or what do you attribute that to? What can you do to have him have a better assist to turnover ratio?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, Bob. One, you've got to communicate with him, show him the film, let him see the angles. He's not going to be a traditional pass first point guard. He's a scoring guard. He just got to let the game come to him a little bit. And, but he is a guy that his teammates recognize his ability to get a shot when the defense breaks down. And right now we're having trouble when an offensive set breaks down, who can go, beat his man and create off the bounce. And he's a guy that can do that for us. And so, we need him to continue to learn, continue to evolve. He sat out last year. And yeah, he's got to make better decisions and lower his turnovers for sure.